Okay. The $2 billion spent on Grand Theft Auto. Why? Why and what did they buy? What did they buy with $2 billion for Grand Theft Auto 6? What did they buy? Y'all want to know what they bought? Let me tell you what they bought. I don't even think they spent the $2 billion on the game itself. I don't think because you have developers that would spend way less than that. I mean, you maybe could say like, you know, a little bit of equipment that they bought, but it's more so on the clearances. I think we're gonna wait until they done talking. We're gonna look. We talking on PS5, man. This is real right here. This is real. They had to spend probably the $2 billion on the clearances on what they're gonna let this game be able to show to the public and be okay to show on all the platforms, as far as YouTube, as far as
we're tapped into their surveillance.
all the different all the different platforms that they plan to
You must be quiet, like tiny, heavily armored mousemen.
like all the platforms that plan to play this game. They had to get the clearances for many to be able to play or use the content from this game. Because they weren't just going to be able to just go ahead like you play this game and that you were going to be able to, for the most part, just put this content anywhere. Because what they're going to show in this game is with the current day of what is being shown every day. Let that sink in. So with everything that is shown to this day of what's being shown, they had to get the clearances and to be verified to be able to go ahead and be able to use this content, because they want people to show out their game 100%. They want people to show out their game. And to do that, I can't imagine what would have had to be spent to be able to show some of the things that they're... Because, and we could use this for example. What do I mean by that? Let's use this for example. The strip club. The strip club on Grand Theft Auto 6, and y'all seen it. They paid a lot of money for the jiggle. Okay? For how much you think they would have had to spend to be able to put that on YouTube, or and it's going to be a responsible thing for people that make content on Grand Theft Auto 6, is that they're going to have to go ahead and filter out some of those things, because there's no way you're just going to go ahead and just have that stuff on that game and then let it be and just let it fly. No way. It's not going to fly on being able to just go ahead and post some of this content. No way. No way. And that's where I honestly believe where the 2 million or 2 billion was spent. Was to spend on when people play our game. It's gonna be a lot that people could do on this game, and we have to know that any content that people put out when playing this game is gonna come back and you know, screw us over. They would want to know that. 100% they're gonna want to know that. because it's a thing that could happen. And what can they really say? Because anybody that posts that content can say literally like, oh, this is the game that they made. What did you thought? What did you think was going to be posted? Like, we didn't make the game. You know, so it's kind of justified that there's a whole bunch of things that they had to, you know, be ready for what's about to come, for when this game comes out. So much. And I wish we would have to, like, you know, I wish I would have did some research on the things that were needed for this. Well, that's that.
Damn it. They'll try to lock down now. Hack through any security, shoot through any resistance.
Okay, we are up shit creek.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, that's where I really think the $2 billion was spent for this game. Solely on all the certifications of what is needed for it. And they may even have it that, you know, and obviously, and there's still guidelines on these platforms that, you know, we still have to follow. So there's that too. So we ain't gonna ignore that. You know, people aren't gonna just be able to start posting content as if it's just like, you know, whatever. But 100% that, you know, they had to, you know, do what they had to do for it. And they were willing to spend whatever they need to spend for this game to be released. Because they had to come out with something that is just out this world. And that's just a little bit of what, you know, as the offer of just the clubs and the nightclubs. This isn't even in. You look at what Grand Theft Auto 5 on what is offered in here that they had to look into. Up like you figure the MC business on what that is shown. And what's crazy about it is that what it shows on the MC business on here doesn't even come close to what probably is going to, because it's probably going to, like, we don't really ever see on, and this is a lot for what it is, because we really don't even see how some of the stuff is on this game that it never showed on Grand Theft Auto 5 anybody ever used the drugs really. It showed Trevor a little bit, but it never really showed anybody really use the drugs or anything like that. Now on Grand Theft Auto 6, that's going to be a whole, because remember they have to match the current day of what a lot of people are facing these days, like what a lot of people are doing these days, and to be relatable. So man, I can't imagine on what that's going to show, and that's just on the bad side, you know. That's just on the bad side on what it's going to show on that end. That's not even talking about still, you know, the 5 stores of what is done majority on Grand Theft Auto when they're you know, we go ahead and shoot at the cops, man. It is what it is. At the popo. When you shoot at the popo, that right there, because it's gonna be so intense of like, you really, like, we really don't even see anything that, like, outside that is mind-blowing, that now on the Grand Theft Auto 6, we can only assume that anything that when they do have some things on there, it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing on a whole nother level of the graphics of when you do shoot your gun. Even the shooting of the gun, of how you do it, because you still almost have to keep it a game, but also a game really, really close to reality. That is something to really see right there. That is something to try to come up with the perfect, if you want to say formula, or the perfect. It's still a game, but close to reality. Like that happens in real life. That is something. That is really something to see, to pull that off. I don't know. And that's even they even had to pay on the clearances of potentially harming people's health, the people that play the game. And that's not even the epilepsy thing on when it's like, oh yeah, they have that at the beginning of the game. Like, nah. They have to keep it just enough that it's not going to mess with people psychologically. That when they go to, you know, school or anything like that, that they don't really want to do some of these things, or they become traumatized from the game. Like, that's so much to look into. So I can't imagine they had to, you know, ask for some services from a specialist on how far we can go as far as not messing up a lot of our players' minds, because there's really no game that is really like hitting that area that made you question on like, whoa. Like the most you might get of a game that was kind of like, oh man, that some was like Resident Evil. But for some of the things that they did and the characters that they had in Resident Evil, it wasn't considered like everyday, not everything that you couldn't do in reality. Like you wasn't going to see some of those things in reality. Well, at least not around where you live, you know. But you didn't see any of those things that was on Resident Evil. It was so gruesome. On, I think it was like one of the Resident Evils when it was with Jack, that one dude, man. I mean, he was brutal. But it was like that you didn't see anything. Nothing really outside of, you know, that really blew your mind when it comes to some games. Like this one's going to be so far gone, and the graphics going to be so far gone, and with that, even when you're fighting, you know, people, what you're going to see with that, and probably what you're able to do after fighting, like Red Dead Redemption, the fighting mechanics on that is something special. And then when somebody go on the ground, you know, who knows what you're capable of doing when somebody's laid out on the floor and you just decide to stomp on their head or something, like, and then you see the gush of the brain just ooze out like it ain't. So those clearances on those, on where I think on all the things that they were allowed to get away with, or that they were like, okay, we're not allowed to get away with, well, how much money do we need to pay you to be allowed to be able to let people play this? Because there might be like there might be there's going to be a decent amount of signing on, the signing of saying that you allowed yourself, that you're okay with seeing this, because there are going to be different versions of it. There's probably going to be different versions to say, do you want the explicit version or do you want it to be clean and it blurs out? But a lot of people are going to want the full version. So, and I think they're going to do that with the clean version for content creators that are playing the game, just so they don't got to do all the editing on themselves. Because that would be such a hassle of when just to want to put Grand Theft Auto content, or even when you just want to play Grand Theft Auto online, and you know, you have to, unless you want to be copyrighted all the time, you know, you may be able to have, there may be some platforms that are okay with, you know, letting, you know, these things see what the full experience of a Grand Theft Auto 6, which they're going to probably want that to see, because, you know, that the world is what the world is. But, you know, if you're a person that plays on YouTube and Twitch, you're going to have a lot of things censored for the audience that is watching your stream. So there's going to be probably a clean version on what they're going to have with Grand Theft Auto 6, and there's going to be the explicit version that if you're just playing for, you know, at your house and you just enjoy the game, they're going to have that version too as well, where you're just You know, you're just playing the game and getting the whole experience, man. So that's where I think the $2 billion really went on spending for that game. Not even just to make the game, but to make sure pretty much that society can understand that it is a game. Like it's a game. But a lot of people aren't going to be okay with that, because you have parents that aren't going to be okay with, you know, because the majority audience that's on Twitch are kids. And and Twitch isn't going to allow, you know, Grand Theft Auto 6 to just be played on that intense version of just the jiggle alone. Like the jiggle from that game is going to be nuts. So even just from that's going to be like, just like, yeah, no. So there had to be some terms or condition or some contract that these streaming platforms, you know, they had to talk to with these streaming platforms to allow a lot of people to play these games on how it would go, or even just that if you are playing the games on those platforms, that when certain scenes and things come up, because let's say if they don't make another version of Grand Theft Auto 6, a clean version, that when these scenes do come up, that Twitch has this thing or YouTube has this thing that it kind of blurs it out or darkens out the screen of just getting that ready, you know. So it's like it goes by like I don't want to say in the game, but it has a thing of when it can recognize, and that's what the AI is really good for too, or, you know, the facial recognition stuff, because that's been around for so long. So it has like basically like a chip or something that recognize, you know, a particular shape or a particular, you know, thing that is looking out for, that cuts it out. So they maybe spend a lot of money on all the platforms just to help the other platforms. Not even just the game, just to help the other platforms to be ready for the game. You know, because I think that to make that on the game probably wouldn't be that hard. You know, you have a lot of people doing a lot of things on some games that are way harder than just that does not need that much money to do it, where it's just some simple, I wouldn't say simple, but you have those, you know, software engineers and gaming engineers that know how to make those type of graphics with no problem. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are, man. Let me know if your thoughts are if you think that the $2 billion was spent on the game, or if it was for clearances for them to be able to let people play the game on certain platforms, to what are they allowed for the world to see, you know, specialists on what's just enough that it doesn't mess up, you know, grown folks, little kids, because, you know, kids are going to try to play this game. You know, what do y'all think the $2 billion really went? Do you really think it went to the full game? Like, if you look at the full creation, yeah, you can say that to get, but like the specifics of what do you think that $2 billion went? You really think they spent $2 billion on every person that they could reach to just develop the game, just only the game? Or do you think it was for these clearances that they need to be able to allow what they're fitting to put out in the world? Because woo-wee, I know it's going to get spicy. I'm going to check y'all in the next video, man. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe, like the video. If y'all like the video, subscribe, so it lets me know that y'all want more videos. Or do y'all just want gameplay? Because y'all might get tired of my voice. I know my voice on here, because we playing on PlayStation 5. I know it's a little rough, man. I'm going to be honest. I need a new mic or something. But I'm going to check y'all next video. Y'all be easy. Peace.